lay down. The thread is set free. In my heart and baby down in my soul. You baby, you can't take it no more. No, I know I'm walking out that door the way you treated me too many times before. can't take a breath. I can't take it no more.
And we're almost ready, but not quite. So just give me a couple more minutes to get organized and confirm that I did in fact finish this pack of cigarettes and get my coffee. And I'm going to start mixing some salt water for this massive water change that I've been talking about. Because I think tomorrow is going to be the day to do it. So I get to mix all my salt water up tonight while we discuss a very interesting question. And just in case you're newly assigned to the channel, I invite you to go check on the Easy Reefers channel and watch the entirety, or go ahead, just forward it to the last couple of minutes of the hurricane or what, tropical storm Gordon. Yeah, you just got to think of the commercial. Get Gordon, get it done. Well, for starters, to understand why this channel exists, to understand why you exist, to understand why Tropical Storm Gordon existed, to understand how much stock you should just, put into anything I say, rather than dismiss it out of hand, because it makes you feel uncomfortable. I think that little video with the hurricane that well, it just kind of came to make me happy, and it did. And, well, suffice to say, if anyone doubts my word about anything, if they watch that video in its entirety, they'll stop. Because human beings are not capable of the things that I did on that video. Therefore, if one watches that video, they will realize that I am not a human being. Or at least not entirely. But anyways, as for now, the reason why I show all these magical mumbo-jumbo tricks is because there seems to be some pretty important stuff that most people just don't seem to realize. And it's kind of dangerous. Like, scary fucking dangerous. And I think it's worth putting some time into to try to understand what really was with all the 9/11 conspiracy theorists. Why was Russia involved with Alex Jones? Why was RT promoting 9/11 conspiracy theory? Why was Russia, basically, involved in the spreading of the idea that the United States government was behind 9/11? This was actually during the time in which old Bushy said he could see into Putin's soul. And, we all know how that turned out for us. Turned out he had none. Which means I think Bush should get checked for, what do you call them? Glaucoma? Yeah. I think he wasn't seeing Putin's soul. I think he was seeing a glaucoma spot. Anyway. So I think it's a very valid question to ask. What the hell? What exactly? Why? Is there any good reason? Can anyone come up with? I challenge anyone to come up with a good reason. For Vladimir Putin, who was supposed to be our ally in the war on terror, remember? Yeah. Why would he be our ally in the war on terror, on one hand, and then be spreading 9/11 conspiracy theories about his dear friend W on the other? Like I said, it just seems like a valid question to me. So what I want to do is, that's where I get this fucking saltwater mixed up. Fucking hoses I got my around everywhere, and I'm just shoving that crap right up that place for them. I got to touch or something. Okay. I need to go swap out this jug right quick. I'll be right back. Alright, that jug in there is overfilled, so I'm going to use my little leveling hose, and I guess I'll take a break for now. I'll take a break and come over here and get to work, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are, and welcome back to the Lost-Begotten channel, here on Fake TV, also known as YouTube, but it turns out it's just them tube. YouTube has been a organization extremely focused on portraying the idea they, them, the men in black, the CIA, the Illuminati, the Freemasons. Oh, you couldn't get on YouTube 10 years ago. That Alex Jones warning you about how they were turning the frogs gay. Good morning, Mr. Rodriguez. Actually get it lined up this morning to where I'm not fiddly fucking with it. Anyways. So, I invite anyone who doesn't even have time to watch this video to go and simply look up what Trump was doing, what Trump was saying around the time of 9/11. Because, you know, we all know hindsight is 20/20, right? You can analyze things better retrospectively than you can as they're happening to you, as long as you have recorded data. You might be, especially in cases in which you might be intentionally manipulated. You need to take notes, you need to record events, you need to video and photos and everything that you can. And while at the time, during that situation, they might look like they draw one single conclusion, later on, as you're outside of that box, you might see somebody on the outside too, looking in. And you never really included them in this box. You never considered that they might be involved. You see, the problem with 9/11 conspiracy theory is every single one of them developed under the impression that the Cold War was over and that Vladimir Putin was basically a nice guy. That sounds ridiculous now. But if you be honest with yourself, that's what we all thought back then. We were more fearful of our own government than we were of Vladimir fucking Putin. And you can take just that evidence of disconnect and either choose to shut down your further investigation and deny it and just say, oh, that's not how we were. No, we knew. You can bullshit yourself. Or you can see where that truth leads you. Now that you know it, in retrospect, what it might actually mean. Because now we know that Vladimir Putin more or less supports terrorism. And if you've been subscribed to this channel, you'd realize that this connection between the Soviet Union and Vladimir Putin's regime, the support of jihadist extremism, right-wing extremism, even Irish extremism, never really stopped. And if it never really stopped, if they were always in support of terrorism, did they just take a vacation from it during 9/11? Or was there some reason why basically 9/11 and the actions of the Bush administration, while they were apparently incommunicado with Vladimir Putin as if he was their best good friend, the actions of the Bush administration at that time, when he could see into Putin's soul, led to the downfall of America. Not only did we overdeploy ourselves, overinflate our budget, exhaust our resources, decimate our morale, but the fact of the matter is we showed our hand. And we didn't just show our hand to like the guy sitting next to us, man. We showed our hand to the dealer. Here you go. Take me for all I'm worth. You see, the whole idea of a Cold War is that nobody really knows how strong the other side is. And the reason why Vladimir Putin has been upgrading his military now is because we showed our hand right to the dealer and said, here's how strong we are. Now, I will say as a pretty well-informed military analyst that we didn't actually show our entire hand. But we showed a lot of them. We showed fucking 4 fingers. And we left out the one that mattered, you know? But just picture this. Not only did Vladimir Putin convince George W. Bush, after the events of 9/11, to invade a country that didn't even fucking attack us, that frankly would have known better than to get involved in some shit like this, because Saddam Hussein would have known that the Russians were just trying to set him up. I mean, Saddam Hussein was a lot of things, but he didn't come across as a dumbass to me. In fact, I could tell the difference between him and his little clone doubles because only two of them had comparable intelligence. One was about 15 points behind in IQ, one was about 23 points behind in IQ. But Saddam Hussein had an IQ of around 140, and he was pretty impressive as far as his perceptions and his ability to just maintain a bullshit face while thinking insane amounts of, spy novel worthy shit, basically. And he was a evil, terrible, calculating motherfucker. But he wasn't stupid. Really? Yeah, I know you don't like me because I tried to kill your father. Let's see what else I can do to piss you off, just to ensure that you're going to come blow me the fuck up. Really? You think Saddam Hussein made that calculation? I don't think so. Wait a minute. I just realized something's wrong here. Something's terribly, terribly wrong here. Okay, cigarettes. I packed them. I smoked one. I don't have my coffee. What kind of a fucking world do we live in? Ah, that's better. What the fuck? What is falling? It's two things. I don't know what. Lighter? Oh. Okay. Those come in handy. In case you want to, light a cigarette. So a lifelong memory. Singeing your asshole hairs. Whatever. What? Oh, yes. So, all is right with the world. Now that I have coffee. Don't take the little things for granted. But consider the situation. Not only does Russia get more bang for buck for their military dollar, but now that America is really struggling financially, now Russia has amped up its military spending. Okay? They're raising the fucking pension age. They're screwing over veterans, but building new tanks. But Bushy, he trusted old Pooty so much that if you wondered why Obama didn't take a harsher stance against Russia when they annexed Crimea illegally and then proceeded to invade Ukraine, it's because Bushy had a little contract with Pooty that pootied us in a fucking bind. Now, I want you to picture this situation and tell me what would you do if you were Obama. We've been fighting a war for over 10 years in Afghanistan. We had, during almost that entire time period, a contract with the Russian Federation to move our troops on Russian railways from Afghanistan to Germany, back and forth. And at the point where we were, mostly pulling out of Afghanistan, basically we had every advanced piece of mechanized infantry equipment in our deployable arsenal, our non-classified arsenal, on trains, parading through Russia. Now bear in mind, right after this period is when they decided to what? Amp up their fucking military spending, and they came out with these new versions of the T-90 and just consider that. Consider the terrifying implications of it. Now, a year after I reported it, an American general in Afghanistan came out and said that Russia had been supporting the Taliban. And now, if you actually look at the facts of the situation, even though you may have been told that the CIA is the one who propped up the Taliban, the CIA, in fact, supported a group called the Mujahideen. And while Mullah Omar may have been involved in the Mujahideen, the CIA never, ever, ever supported the fucking Taliban. You see, what had happened in the real world was, if you'd like to get your fucking facts straight for once, is that the Taliban took over the government that we supported. They took over in a violent coup just a few months after the Russians left, just a few months after we helped this new little government get established, the Afghan Provisional Government, first edition. Taliban came back with the help of the Russians. Taliban maintained power all the way until 2001 with Russian equipment. Where do you think they got that Russian equipment? The fucking Belgrade flea market? No, they're the Taliban. They got it from Russia. You know why? Because Russia's their fucking neighbor. It's right there. And by that I mean Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, which are basically the Soviet bloc states in which the Russians took slaves for rare earth and mineral and coal and salt mining and all kinds of different shit. And you see, there's a weird relationship between Russia and Islam, and it mostly centers around the whole difference between Shiites and Sunnis, as far as I can understand. I'd have to put a lot of thought into trying to remember which one that they were, but I'm pretty sure they hate Shiites. But I'm not completely sure. But there are many different beyond Shiite and Sunni sects and divisions in Islam. And while there are approximately about 20+% of the population of Russia is Muslim, the Russian military has forcibly relocated many different Muslim entire populations. They're not specific to Muslim populations, basically anybody that's in their fucking way. But these areas, even though they were first converted to Islam during the Mongolian horde era, during the time of like Tamerlane. They've been infused with populations of like Tatars from Crimea during two different, like relocation genocides, basically. The first of which was known for basically Nazi levels of graphic horror, where they would just pile people onto the trains without food or anything, just whichever ones survived made it to the fucking labor camps, Only Germany ain't that fucking big, is it? And frankly, I'd imagine their trains were nicer. Too soon? Too soon? Just like, if you have to be shipped off in a cart to a genocide, I'd prefer a German railway over a Russian one. That's all I'm saying. Running over caribou and shit. But Russia, speaking of the Nazis, they put a lot of money into making people think that somehow 9/11, committed by these people that they've been in cahoots with for decades, the Russians, been in cahoots with Islamic extremism, since Brezhnev fucking released a book in 1978 about it. Basically called the Soviet Union and Terrorism or something like that, right? But they wanted you to think the Jews were behind it. Really? You mean like Jon Stewart? Barbra Streisand? They were behind... What? The fuck are you talking about? They go la 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 la, not ah la 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 la. They're different. Muslims sing morning prayers. Jews sing show tunes. Huh? Okay. Just one of these things is not like the other. You know how Poland became half Jewish? Like the Polish people basically look different from most Europeans. You're told they're the Slavic people. That's because there was a group of Europeans there that were very nice, agrarian, the best farmers, the best cultivators in the world. They produced so much food for the entire world. They were the most wonderful fucking people. And they were all the descendants of retired soldiers and heroes, and this was a place where you had to earn your right to inherit land. And they took refugees since the time of the Babylonian captivity that were Jewish. Real Jews, not false Jews. People who literally do damn near nothing wrong because they would just never stop feeling the guilt. The people that you get the idea of the humorous Jewish guilt from, that's them we're talking about. Not the Khazars, the false Jews. That's a reference to people of any religion who say that they're of that religion, but they're really just Satanists. And what Christ said about them, if you want to actually make a deal about false Jews, what he said about false anyone is that how to determine whether or not they're true or false is not where they come from, not what color their skin is, not what they look like, not their name. It's to judge them by their works. Now, in any group of refugees that has come from the horde areas, whether it be Jews or Janissaries, there have been people sent among them. But that is the case with any group of refugees, period. That's how they infiltrate. That's how the horde infiltrated Europe. That's how Russia has been infiltrating, well, Europe and America and Canada and Australia and wherever else they can fucking get to. But if you're picturing refugees and you're picturing like a bunch of colored people on boats, you're not getting what I'm fucking saying to you. I'm talking about those perfectly normal people. Not groups of military-aged men swarming a border. I'm talking about old ladies with glasses and their young daughter and her 2 kids. And, you know, their family was Jewish, but they're atheists. Supposedly. And you're supposed to believe that they're Jewish because they got just the right nose. A nose does not make a Jew. Fact of the matter is, we've been brainwashed in a lot of ways by a lot of different infiltrations. For instance, one of the roots of those brainwashings is the difference between the word Jewish and Hebrew. Now, Carlos, before you watched this channel, did you think there was any difference between Jewish and Hebrew? Were you told there was no difference, and did you sense otherwise, or how would you describe that? Yep. Like I said at the time when it was happening, you have these old communist leftists, okay, and they get jobs in the UN, they get jobs at, you know, Berkeley and Stanford and even Yale and Harvard, and they get job at U of H and University of New Orleans and Tampa and every different little fucking town in America that has a university of that town. I guarantee you Russia has it on a list somewhere, and they have made sure that they have at least one person influencing the historical views of those soon-to-be educated professionals. And one of the most prolific ways that they have been able to spread infiltration across many different regions is through the infiltration and actually through the establishment of false national global organizations. You know, Amnesty International made a whole lot about contacting CNN about every little thing that Bush was doing. But they only spent a little while complaining about Putin. But just to recap, the difference between the Jews and Hebrews is that Hebrews is a much broader group of people that we in this day and age would semi-appropriately call Jewish because we lack the understanding. That's actually a very simple key factoid. Jew is of the tribe of Judah, one of the 12 tribes of Israel. All of the tribes of Israel were, to the best of my knowledge, considered Hebrew. At least 2,000 years ago they were. Now, I could get highly sidetracked into making the case that the first foundation of Israel was actually the settlement of Rome, and that the post-captivity return to Israel was actually the wrong fucking place. But therein you have the difference between the broader knowledge of Hebrews and the House of Judah. The House of Judah returned to Palestine and called it Israel. The Hebrews basically inhabited all of Europe and North Africa. And there had been tribes of Abraham that shared the same faith that we considered also to be Hebrew. In southern Persia to India, Southeast Asia, Polynesia, Japan, Southeast China, everything below the Great Wall, basically. And you can find any of these things, the people think they're looking for the true Jews versus the false Jews, and these Jews are the false Jews, and maybe it's the Japanese that are the real Jews, or no, maybe it's the blacks that are the real Jews. This is all nonsense. You've got 12 different tribes. How many different types of humans are there? Which ones intermingled with abominations over their histories? Which ones intermingled with each other? You have the 12 tribes of Israel sitting right in front of you. You call them humanity. And every major family that established a government during that time period came from that tribe. unless they were basically already friends with it, because they were friends of the family, and they intermingled and became that tribe, you know? But then you have to understand that the reason why we used to call Asia Minor is because it used to be called Asia before that. And the reason why it was called Asia is because there were freaking Asians there. There was a tribe that inhabited India, and there were the impassable mountains to the north, where basically people were terrified of more than just the mountains to go. And nobody went to Asia until just the past 3,000, maybe give or take a little more than that, you know. But yeah, if you want to go back to the time frame in which the sons of Noah and the time frame of Abraham, then you can get like the time frame in which people started to go to Asia. But before that, that was a no man's land. If anything, I would if I wanted to just put logic to it, I would think it would be settled by sea long before it would be settled by land. That's all. But, you know, if you want to take a look at a evolutionary standpoint, people often say that the Asian eyelid comes from them living up north. Well, if you've ever been out in the ocean on an open boat, you'd probably wish you were Asian, because you're going to do a lot of squinting when that fucking rain hits you, when you're headed into the wind. It can get so bad it hurts. And, you know, obviously I'm a white guy, I don't know what it's like, but I would think all the different times that I've squinted, most of them were on boats, man. And I would think I'd have a lot less headaches trying to maintain against the fucking mist in the ocean and the rain in the ocean and the sun with no obstruction. You're trying to look, you know, down this. I think they were mariners. I don't think they were igloo builders. I think that happened later, but I think they were mariners. I think this all comes from the, basically the invasion of Polynesia. But before that, let me tell you, you were a lot more likely to find people willing to inhabit an entire small island than they were willing to build a city in a jungle. Okay? If there's a big, giant freaking forest area, big, giant jungle area, like you have in Southeast Asia, that is going to be the last place people want to go and settle. Places like that usually begin being settled by criminals and people who don't want to be found, you know? But anyways. I think you'll find that one of the reasons why the more beautiful Asian women and the more beautiful white women tend to look a lot alike, and they, is the same. It's the same reason for that straight hair gene, because those two cultures used to be connected a long time ago. I mean, people wondered, why the hell was Germany allied with Japan? It's a connection that goes back a long time. And as far as why it endured, even after the cultural reasons for it to endure had long since passed, well, the Horde, man. What's that? Oh, the troll burn. I forgot about that. I just want to look at the little character I drew. That is some fine MS Paint work if I ever saw some. Anyways. So here's a map of Russia from 1969. And to wonder why Japan and Germany might have been allied, you might go back to wondering about why Bush said something when he said it. Remember the whole axis of evil thing? What was it? North Korea, Iraq, Syria, right? Or Iran. North Korea, Iran, and Syria. That was after we invaded Iraq, was it? I don't know. The axis of evil, right? Ooh, booga booga. So there's Iran. There. North Korea. There. Syria. And there. Now, they don't look connected, right? Most people don't think they're connected. What do these countries have in common? Oh, they're all sharing stuff. They're all sharing missile technology and terrorist stuff and supplying terrorists. Do they have anything else in common? Do they maybe share an ally, share a supplier, share a protectorate ship? Most people, until they saw this channel, okay, until I had been screaming about it for over a year, MSNBC or nobody ever even talked about it, really until after the election, wasn't it? Most people had no idea that North Korea was attached to Russia. People seem to understand that Iran is attached to Russia and is supplied by Russia, but they don't really seem to comprehend this. They have a logical disconnect to associating this fact with any other events. And don't apply that fact to understanding anything. On Fox News, for instance, Iran is entirely supplied by Russia. North Korea is also nearly entirely supplied by Russia. They get food from China. All the military stuff, if you'd like me to recap again, it's verifiably Russian. Let's see, what folder did I have my evidence in? Okay, so let me just pull up a couple things here. First of all, after the invasion of Ukraine, in fact, I think right after the downing of MH370 by the Russian separatists in Ukraine, by a missile system that was filmed crossing the border before it happened, and then crossing the border minus a missile after it happened. Russia if you see there, you can actually see the little attachment, gave North Korea, during also a time in which it seemed like the North Koreans were trying to help distract the world from what Russia was doing by launching a bunch of missiles. You know how like they go on those little sprees where they just keep launching a bunch of missiles and stuff? Yeah, they were doing that. And Russia's response, with the world watching, was, we're going to give you a bunch of fire trucks and make a big television event out of it. Brand new Russian fire trucks given to North Korea. Now, while that may not seem like military hardware, I'm going to show you some military hardware. Let me just point out exactly how crucial fire trucks are when it comes to reassuring an ally. You see, during war, shit gets blown up and set on fire. So one of the ways to reassure an ally who's being threatened with, say, American fucking bombers and aircraft carriers and shit, would be to give them fire trucks. Well, if the Americans come bomb you, we're going to be there with you helping put out the flames. And then we'll seek revenge together, It's not just reassuring him, he's reassuring him every step of the way with them fire trucks. Because today you might have noticed, if you were watching the news, that the North Koreans decided not to include the ballistic missile trucks on their parade. You know, you gotta love them big fucking North Korean parades, right? They're just not the same without the missile trucks, though. But the reason why is because it was stupid to have done so to begin with. Because anyone who knows military hardware can get a good look at this missile truck or that missile truck and they understand that it looks just like this missile truck or that missile truck or that missile truck or that missile truck. And the funniest thing about all this is not only do we have those Russian missile trucks, but we've got the Russian equivalent of the Paladin mobile artillery system. We've got anti-aircraft batteries. We've got mechanized infantry. And don't forget the tanks. You're welcome. But look at that. Those are Asian people, right? All Asian people are the same, right? No. In fact, you'd be surprised to find out that most Asian people are more racist than white people. Because unlike white people, Asian people seem to know the difference between them and other Asian people. White people don't even know the difference between themselves and other white people, let alone the difference between one Asian and the next. But if you look here, real close, there's this little symbol that keeps repeating. See that big golden symbol? If you look, here, oh look, there it is again. It's on every single one of these pieces of equipment. Oh, not that one. Well, at least not that we can see from this side. But why is there a Arabic character 428 on there? That's because that's a piece of Russian equipment from Mongolia. Those are Mongolian Russian forces. Probably Manchurian, actually. Russia has plenty of Asians, plenty of Muslims, plenty of everybody. If you've got a country, they've got a full army worth of people ready to invade it. And if you don't realize that, you're just a naive little schoolgirl. Don't kid yourself. Don't delude yourself. Don't sit there and be a coward and try to lie to yourself into thinking that you're safe. Because you see, we can take a closer look at these Russian pieces of equipment. And what do we find? What is that? What is that on that missile truck? This big missile truck. This is a Ural. What kind? Which one is that? I thought I had the label for it. Oh, there it is. No. Got all these fancy little labels on them from this whole, the different, oh, there we go. MZKT-79221. Okay, so that's one variation on this MZKT model of a Ural truck. But there's this thing. Look at this little emblem thing there. There it is again. And that thing, well, it looks just like this thing in North Korea. So understand what this means. This isn't the same manufacturer's emblem. This isn't the fucking hood ornament. This is a Mongolian horde crest. This is a political banner. What they're saying with this is that we are military allies. We are the same army. Not only is it the same equipment, they're professing political allegiance. The one on the right is from the North Korean parade. The one on the left is from the Moscow parade. That is why Russia is stopping its tests and stopping showing off its missile hardware. I mean, North Korea, excuse me. Because they're Russian. They only needed to do that one more test because they bought the new missiles. Well, I'm sure they got a great deal on them. Putin would need no other profit than to piss us off. So, can any of the people watching give a different explanation why these identical pieces of military equipment, multiple identical, I mean, the tanks are Russian tanks, the mechanized infantry vehicles are Russian mechanized infantry vehicles, the artillery systems are Russian artillery systems, state-of-the-art Russian artillery systems. Can anyone else give a reason other than political allegiance for those weapon systems to have these nearly identical banners? I mean, if I was to see those on a battlefield, map, I would assume that that was one army and another army of the same country. You know, the only other possible reason is it's all fake and just made to make us think that. But then why am I the only one talking about it? It's a signal given to intelligence people. Don't fuck with us. We're all together, and we will seriously fuck you up. That's what it means to me. It's a signal from the spy master himself, Vladimir Putin, to all of our little analysts. Because we don't have spies, man. I mean, not on the level that they do. The British have spies. We have analysts. We have field agents. You know, it sounds like they're having a fucking picnic. What are y'all gonna go play fucking badminton? Oh, we're field agents. We're gonna go plant some grass. The Russians have fucking spies, man. And we don't even understand what the word spy means when it comes to the Russians. They have spies like the mafia has spies. You know the way the mafia has dirty cops and dirty reporters? That's just the same way the Russians do things. They've got dirty politicians, dirty colonels, maybe even the occasionally dirty general or admiral in our very military. And it's hard to police the mafia when you got dirty cops. Yeah. Hard to police the Russians when they've got Fox News. You know, you can imagine. I certainly can't point to a case, but you can imagine a mobster, right? He knows the fucking heat's on him, you know. He knows the goons are after him, whatever. And he's got a niece. He's paid for her to go to broadcast school so she can be a local reporter, so she can get public opinion on his side. And sure enough, between that, her reporting, and the little fake protest group, and her reporting on the fake protest group, it caused enough public outcry to hang that jury. Well, that's how Russia does things. Oh, but what about the rights of the Russian speakers in Crimea? What about the rights of my invasion force? They've already invaded. They have rights now. Because they're there. No. They have the right to get the fuck out. Howdy, Mr. Conway. So we were just going over the evidence. You know, just like this evidence here, that basically, wouldn't you say, pretty conclusively proves that Russia is fully backing North Korea militarily, or is at least putting on a show to that effect. I mean, this hardware had to have come in on that little one train line going from Russia to North Korea. What worries me is that not only did any of the reporters catch on to it, or were they allowed to report on it, I don't know. But what I wonder is that they might have been able to do this in such a way that our intelligence services were basically shitting themselves. And my question is, and what makes me wonder that is, did anybody know before the parade that all that Russian hardware was there in North Korea? Did anybody know that our, 20,000, 40,000 troops in South Korea weren't just facing off obsolete, poorly designed, poorly manufactured North Korean bullshit? They were facing off against state-of-the-art Russian fucking weaponry. Did we know that before the parade? I hope, oh my God, I hope that somebody else besides me's fucking figured this out since. It seems the case because, like we found out today, no more missiles in the parade. In fact, I'm almost keen to pull up the parade and see what we can see. Let's see here. Let's see if lazy camera mode will work. Alright, lazy camera mode. Go. What did I pay for this camera? $15, wasn't it? Fucking awesome. I don't even think it was 50. That was like 11. It ain't bad, man. Not bad at all. So, oh, there's the one from those images I was just showing. In fact, it looks like they just stole that fucking screenshot from me, didn't they? I took that by pausing. It's pretty much an obvious view, though. But looks like the same exact pause point, though. Hold on. At the same exact fucking pause point. Look, that's just lazy of them. Then again, they probably fucking collect batches of files from me. Trump days. D-A-Y-Z. I would bet at least one of my testicles that was a Russian channel called Trump Days. Anyways, where's that fucking the folder I was just in? There we go. Oh, okay, that was a downloaded image. Alright. I thought that was a pause point image. I'm like, really? Did they just fucking jack my icon? No, this is a downloaded image. Okay, that makes sense. I did not snap this from a pause. I was confused. But, let's see, 3 days ago, 2 days ago. This one's actually in Korean. So it hasn't even been a year since they had a parade? Alright, I don't care about all that. I want to see the hardware, baby. I want to see the hardware. Show me the gear. People. Random dumbass truck. Let's see what we got here. Huh. Those aren't the same artillery pieces. Those are their older ones. Let me get my images back again. Note the tapered nature of the turret, the more dynamic end assembly. As opposed to the flat side. Oh, my program's freezing. My laptop's freezing. Having to reboot because of my brilliant analytical capabilities, exposing North Korean deception. Smarter than the CIA? Question mark. Alright, it's time for another double documentation of the fuckery. And yes, I know I just put this on the Easy Reefers channel, and I apologize, but I did want to give any people who wonder about investing in me, wonder just whether or not, see, there's the line between genius and insanity, and you wonder whether or not I'm on one side or the other of it. That's perfectly understandable. Well, what you gotta realize is that I intentionally play hopscotch right a fucking cross it, okay? And that's because I have always been, my entire life, and I don't mean to sound arrogant or I don't mean to belittle people, but I've been the smartest fucker in every room as long as I can remember. I've spent my entire life surrounded by dumbasses. And while there's been people who are experts in individual things, I find that people can't focus on one thing without becoming clueless to all other things. And it's just, I'm in effectively another classroom right now. This is YouTube, right? I'm surrounded by, peers of my approximate age group and interest. And in high school, people thought I was cool. I was popular. I could hang out with preppy kids. I could hang out with headbangers. I could hang out with black people. I could hang out with Mexican people. I could hang out with Asian people. I got along with everybody. And one of the reasons is because people generally looked up to me when they were in class with me, because I would help guide the lesson. Let's face it, most teachers don't spend their entire life studying the subject that they teach. I've spent most of my life studying, contemplating, thinking, pondering, theorizing, testing. I'm a fucking born mad scientist, man. Who happens to have some pretty significant spiritual powers, by the way. And like I said, I may just be a psychic who's been driven crazy by alien intervention into thinking that he's the baby Jesus, only he knows better than to think that's the name, you know? I don't care. I don't care what you think. As long as the Russians think I'm fucking crazy, I'm not going to have somebody showing up at my door putting a gun to my head. So I'm glad that God convinced me to be a crazy person. I'm glad that this is all so very obvious that I have these abilities, that somehow YouTube sees me as such a threat because of them. But I really do ask that anyone who thinks that I'm like Trump, where I'm just like saying I can be presidential, but I really can't. I mean, I can be a normal fucking customer service representative, y'all. I've done it. I've worked on the counter, I've worked the phones. I know how to be a normal person. I was never under the impression that YouTube was a place where I had to be normal. And I thought that it would both increase my marketability and my safety to just let my crazy go, baby. And well, the fact is, the events of 2011 actually happened. The events that I show on live streams that should not happen, that no human being should be capable of, those actually happened too. And as I've said, I remain as skeptical about me as I would insist that any of my viewers, or even people who might want to call themselves disciples, although I'd prefer not have any kind of proper term, but effectively people who are blinded by the world and then find the truth because of me, I still want you to be skeptical. But at least give me credit for being a fucking mad genius, at the very least. Because MSNBC, CNN, Fox, ABC, CBS, all these people have professional former CIA analysts working for them. And none of them came up with this obvious analysis, this obvious fact, until I actually got a message correspondence and actually exchanged a few messages with one of the producers on MSNBC. can one-hand it. Control Alt Delete. Nothing. Control Alt Delete. Nothing. Maybe numlock was on there. Control Alt Delete. Nothing. Nothing. No response. No response. Nothing. What we were just talking about, how last, or 6 months, 7 months ago, there was Russian state-of-the-art military hardware parading through the streets of North Korea. And I have, well, I can't move the mouse and show you the folders, but I have a plethora of evidence to this effect. And just as I was making a further analytical point that I hadn't covered on previous videos about these being older than these, less state-of-the-art, and I was about to start giving the detailed analysis on exactly how I know that, and how you can tell by the images available. That's when my computer froze. And this has happened time and time again when